Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me again. It's TeaRon. That's TeaRon, period. And we are here for another episode of the Ubiquitous Blacks podcast. I want to say it is seldom that I get a chance to speak with someone who dabbles in some of the things that I admire the most, some of the things that I geek out about, that I'm passionate about. And when I had the opportunity to speak to this person that we are about to speak to today, I had to jump at it because I was like, yo, here's someone who is literally occupying spaces that I would love to share in. And I want to learn more about this woman's journey and what she's doing and how she's doing it. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Libya El-Amin. Libya, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself. Let the people know where you are, where you're from, what you do, whatever it is you want to let them know. Go ahead and do that. And let's get into this conversation.
All right. Hello, everyone. Yes, I am Libya El-Amin, and I am a picture editor that is currently working in television and film in Los Angeles. And I got here the very, very long route because everybody asked me, like, how do you do what you're doing? And everybody's journey is very different. So I can only inform you on my journey, which was I started off as a chemical engineer. I went to
Oh,
North Carolina A&T and University of Virginia. I got my master's in engineering, and I worked for several years as an engineer at 3M and Asahi Glass,
wow.
and I found that I did not like it. So I
I can
spent
understand that.
all that education. I would say money, except I had scholarships, so I didn't spend any money. So I was fortunate enough for that. But actually, it's one of those things where your family tells you, you know, you get good grades, you should
Mhm.
be a doctor, you should be a lawyer, you should be an engineer because I was really good in math and chemistry. But nobody really asks you like, what are you passionate about? What do you love? And I found that being an engineer was boring. I was not
Yeah.
engaged. And it did show up in my work. I could tell that, like, my boss was like, "Do you not like being here?" And I was like, not really. So that field did not work out for me. And I sat around and I was thinking, what do I want to do?
Right.
And while I was on my severance package, just sitting in my apartment, my hobby was I would take my favorite TV shows and cut them to music, and then I'd go to fan conventions all over the country, and I would enter those music videos into the contest, and I'd win prizes and stuff like that. And
Oh, wow.
that I thoroughly enjoyed it. That was my thing. I would go to work for 8 hours and I'd come home at 5 o'clock and I would edit these music videos until midnight. And when I was sitting around, I was like, maybe this is what I should be doing. And
Yeah. It
I have
sounds like.
exactly right.
Yeah.
So I went to the New York Film Academy in New York City because that was where my last engineering job was, right across the water in New Jersey. And I was
And this is
right
after you had already gotten
I
your master's.
I after I'd worked as an engineer for I worked
Yeah.
as an engineer for 6 years,
Oh, wow.
and it was not for me, and, I ended up going to the New York Film Academy, and I what's cool about their program, now it's gonna sound like a plug for them, but what was cool about their program is it let me do all the jobs. I got to write scripts, I got to
Mm.
direct, I got to DP, I got to edit. So you would do that for everybody else's films. You would do different positions, and then for your own film, you would write it, direct it, and edit it. And
That's a good approach, honestly, when you consider, like, you're going, you know, with a specific idea in mind or what you wanna achieve, but then having those skill sets, it's always best to know the inner workings of the
everybody's job,
everyone's that you're doing, yeah,
right?
so you could communicate a lot better in that way. Would you say, because with engineering, especially when chemical engineering,
Hmm.
okay, it you kind of learn over time a certain way to think, right? Like,
Yes,
how to solve problems and how to do these, sort of formulaic rituals, if you will. Like, I have to do this to get this answer. You have a way of an approach that you do, right?
right.
Do you think that translates over to you now doing the picture editing? Because it sounds like that would be a huge advantage, at least in the way you process something. You can see it.
It
You know what I mean?
Yes, it does. Chemical engineering is 100% about problem solving and
Mhm.
eliminating different things as the problem until you get to your solution. And that is how I approach a lot of things. And especially on the technical, because there was a point where I had an internship where I had to like move all this equipment and do all this technical stuff. And I thought of electrical flow and how you're wiring things together. My One of my favorite things is to build like somebody's entertainment system. If you tell me that you have to go get something, you got to get some
Yeah.
equipment. I'm like, ooh, can I build all your stuff and put everything together for you? Like I have 100% done that because I thoroughly enjoy it. I love just the process of piecing everything together and figuring out how everything goes together, make it all flow.
Mhm.
And people would say creative is more your creative side of your brain, but I say it's a kind of a combination because for
Yeah.
me, when you're getting a problem when you're editing, you have to kind of back up and approach it a different way and let your brain kind of figure out why is this not working. And sometimes I've found I've cut a scene. The first time I cut a scene, I
Mhm.
won't be happy with the scene, and I'm not sure why I'm not happy with the scene. And my instincts are almost always correct because when I let it go, like I'll be like, well, it's just me. I might be crazy. I'm not happy with this scene, but I don't know why. And
Right.
if I let that go, the next person down the line, the director, the producer will be like, this doesn't work. And they're not sure. And I was like, yeah, I knew that, but I wasn't sure what. And
Right.
so some now I've gotten to the point where I now listen to my instincts. If I'm watching something that I've cut and I'm like, okay, this doesn't work. What do we have to do? And then I have to like try different solutions. I'm coming into the scene a different way. I'm telling the story a little bit a different way. So I think it does help because I went through this period where I was feeling sorry for myself, getting
Mhm.
started late in the career that I ended up wanting.
Right.
And I was like, I wasted all this time being an engineer. And my mom told me no time and no experience is wasted. That I had that experience for a reason and to use it to my advantage.
Right.
So,
That makes sense to me. I mean, yeah, because everything is directly translating. It's not none of the time is wasted. I
right.
would say this, Libya, if you are into building stuff, when I get a new desk, I might need you.
I'm not sure if I can travel that far for a table, but I did construct when I went home to Chicago to see my mom. The
Uh-huh.
first thing she did was hand me her L-shaped desk in a big box and say, "Here you go." So I spent my day doing that.
Oh,
But
goodness.
but my point is, after the New York Film Academy, then I
Mhm.
got some internships. I did some worked on some films as like PAs and stuff like that. Just get some experience, and I made it to assistant editor in New York. But I found that everything in New York was really documentaries and commercials and things like
Right.
that. So I was
Yeah.
getting that experience, and I was like, well, I want to work on television. I want to be on a TV drama. Like, how do I do that? And everybody said you got to go to LA.
Yeah.
So I lit like the moment I decided that I wanted to do that, I was in LA a month later, which everybody I have to say has been very surprised at things that I've done that I don't find surprising. Like I quit my engineering job to go be a PA,
Yeah.
which if you know how much a PA makes, which is nothing,
Nothing. Yeah.
basically makes no sense. And then I moved from New York where I've been living and I just packed up everything and moved to LA. And everyone's like, what do you do? Why? How? What?
Yeah.
And for me, it seems normal. Like that doesn't seem odd to me. And I think it's because of part of my upbringing.
Mhm.
Um,
That's what I was
just
gonna ask you. I was gonna like, what was instilled in you that you were just like, I'm making I'm doing that. I'm taking that leap. Like there had to be some implementation of like fearlessness, if you will, like just saying, hey, look, you can go ahead and take that chance. Go ahead and do it. What was
yeah,
that?
I think it's because from example. My
Mhm.
mom when we graduated from I have a bunch of siblings, but when we graduated from high school, she decided she was going to become a lawyer. Just like she took the LSAT, dropped her job,
What?
and just she was 40, 45, and went through
Wow.
law school, got, nobody does that.
Yeah.
Nobody does that. And she just did it. And so what
Wow.
I tell people is the example you set for your kids is extreme. And also, we moved around a lot when I was little. So
Mhm.
moving from town to town,
Was nothing.
not a big deal.
Yeah.
Like the longest I've ever lived is LA, but before I moved to LA, the longest I ever lived was 4 or 5 years anywhere. And
I
that's
feel the
crazy.
same way. Like I always tell people, I'm like, you know how some people you'll talk to them and they'll say, "Oh, I've had my best friend, we've been best friends since 5th grade or whatever." I'm like, I could never reference that because we moved quite a bit. So every little like, you have your K through 12. I probably did like 8 different schools even then. And then you have middle school. I probably did like maybe 3 different schools, but it was significant periods where I just was like, and I feel like as an adult now, I'm able to open and close, like, relationships without a problem, and I don't know if that's a good or bad thing.
I wouldn't say I would do that, but I'm not afraid of moving. I would say
Yeah,
and new environments, new people don't really frighten me.
yeah,
And that has allowed me one thing about LA and Hollywood, in case you don't know
mhm,
this, but it's all about who you know and who you've met, and
definitely, definitely.
it's all about meeting new people and not being afraid to ask for what you want and what you like. And but I also believe in real kind of relationships too.
Right.
Like I don't like the people who are just, hey, I want to use you for 5 seconds, but I'm
Mhm,
not I'm not that kind of person. Like I genuinely want to invite people in
yeah,
and have, you know, geek outs. And
yeah.
I met an editor
You
who
definitely have to sift through that in LA.
you
Those
do,
yeah,
but yeah, and but I find, everybody is. I find the people that are willing to have coffee with you, if you
yeah,
just ask and you have nothing really to give them other than, hey, I need some help. Can we meet for coffee and talk?
mhm,
Those are the people that are worth getting to know. And I've
yeah,
I've met a lot of those people, and I've been very fortunate that way. And that leads me to my next part of my really quick story is when I moved to LA, I
yeah,
first started working as in reality TV because to get in the union, I don't know if you know this, but you have to have a certain number of hours to get into the
mhm,
union. And so you get those hours any way you can. And the easiest way was reality. But I got stuck there. I was working in reality for quite a while because scripted, they kind of, for the longest time, it's not as bad now, but for the longest time, they used to believe that if you worked in reality, you were not capable of working in scripted, that they were not similar enough.
right.
But I think as an assistant editor, some of the skill sets are very similar.
Yeah,
But there are things that are different. I will give you that. They are, I didn't know that at the time, but I was very like, how could I can totally do this? And I mean, I can, I just needed a little training. So my biggest break came when I was working on a show called Beyond the Tank, which is a Shark Tank kind of spinoff.
yeah, yeah.
And I was on the Sony lot, and I was across the hall from the show Ray Donovan,
Okay.
that's on
Love Ray
Showtime.
Donovan.
And I knew that I had an opportunity that does not come very often, which was I was right next to really big scripted editors, you know, and I was like, well, I can't not try. So
Listen, do you hear me? Just like, hey, the moment sees it is right there.
it's right
I
there.
do think that some people get caught up in that very circumstance where you'll be in close proximity of the very thing you want, and then those questions kick in like, should I even take this chance? Should I even do this? Or should I just,
It's just
keep
fear.
my head down? And it's like you're in that space for a reason. There's a way for that you can navigate that space without, offending anyone, stepping on anyone's toes. You can do what you need to do for you to get to that level that you want to get to. So
I
I'm
I was
glad you were able to identify that.
I was a little bold. I
Mhm.
literally just I I was making eye contact with one of the editors, and she had on an X Files crew jacket, which meant
Yes.
she worked on the X Files, which I love. So I knew I at least had something to talk about,
Mhm.
and I just knocked on her door and I said, "Can we have lunch?" Right?
Listen, y'all, there's nothing complicated in that, you know?
No, I just
The
was. I figured she could either say yes, or she would say no, I'm too busy. Like those were the
Yeah.
two. And if she said no, I'm too busy, okay, I go back to what I was doing. So it's not, it's not a big deal. I'm not going to get thrown off the lot or anything,
Yeah, yeah,
So I knocked on her door. She was a little surprised, but she was like, "How about next week?"
yeah.
Okay. And I told her the story that I just told you guys
Mhm.
about my journey and what I've been trying to do and how long I've been in reality, and that I really wanted to do what she did. And so she was like, okay. I met with her and her assistant. I can't not give her assistant some credit.
Yeah.
Susan, I'm blanking on her last name. Oh my God, I'm terrible. But the two of them both basically decided that they were going to help me get scripted. They were like, okay, let's do it. And 3 months later, I was in scripted
There it
because
is.
it's about who you know. And what I didn't realize, which I'm glad I didn't know this,
Yeah.
is that Lynn Willingham, who was the editor's door I knocked on, is one of the top editors in the entire television business. She has some ridiculous number of Emmys. She worked after the X Files and then Ray Donovan, or before Ray, but after the X Files, but before Ray Donovan, she did Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
So she's been on some like really top notch shows. And by her deciding to take me under her wing, she basically vouched for me and said, okay, now here, talk to all these people and tell them I sent you. And that just opened all the doors.
You know what's what like it's the simplicity of it. That's what's really like because I tell people all the time, just like this is a perfect example. Like there's someone I had a conversation with that I'm going to share this conversation with that's going to hit, hit on all cylinders for them. But I just love the fact that you were able to assess the problem in your head. Again, that probably that engineering background. Assess the problem in your head and say, okay, here are the options. Let me go ahead and do what I need to do. And then in quick succession, those skills that you already possessed got you, man. I love to see it. I want to I want to switch gears and I want to talk about some of the work that you've done since you have gotten into doing scripted. It
Mhm.
says here that you worked on Insecure. Is that right?
That is correct. But
Tell us how that.
not as the editor. Just to be
Okay.
clear, I was the
Okay.
assistant. I assisted a woman named Nina Erb,
Hmm.
and I did season 5, 3 episodes of season 5 of Insecure.
Okay.
That was fantastic. Doing those mirror scenes were not easy, by the way. Because when she's talking to herself, that's a lot of temp VFX that I had to do. That was a struggle. Um, but yeah, that was one of the better. That was for me. I had been assisting at that point for about 6 years, other
Hmm.
big TV shows. But working with Nina, I give her a lot of credit with refining my editing ability. Like before I met her, I thought I was a pretty decent editor, and I was like, man, I need to be editing all this other stuff. But then when I worked with her, I was like, oh, there is so much that I still can learn because she
Yeah.
edits on a different level than some of the other editors I've worked with. And I got to watch her do it. It was like being in a master class, and
Yeah.
you just get to observe. You're like, oh, okay. And then I would cut scenes, and then she would give me like feedback. She would not like one of my scenes. She's like, okay, we're gonna put it in. So I would edit the scene, and then she would give it back to me and break it down and tell me where I went right, where I went wrong, what I need, how I need to approach the scene a little differently, like and tell me what's good and what's bad. And then I would see her cut the same scene and visually see how it's different.
Yeah.
And that was very, very valuable. That was very valuable.
You can't, yeah, you can't, like, that's perfect because it's on the job, right? You're learning in the thick of it, but then to have someone who you look up to showing you stuff. I liken it to like seeing like these jam sessions like with these musicians, right? And you'll
Mhm,
have someone who comes in and they can read sheet music, right? They can get in it, but it's something different when you see someone who is like, on their grand piano and they're doing their thing. They didn't even rehearse. They just know the keys. They were just what, and you're watching them. And then it's like,
mhm.
oh, well, let me try this. and you come together and you're making this, big orchestra. Like that is ideal. So fast forward. So you worked on Insecure, but most recently, you've worked on Genius, season 4 of Genius, which goes over the story of MLK and Malcolm X, which is currently airing as we're recording this. It's finishing up its limited series run. Talk to me about that experience because if people don't know by your name, you have a interesting connection when it comes to being involved with such a project that you would bring in an expertise, I would imagine, that would not just any editor would just bring, and that's having a upbringing within the Nation of Islam. Of course, we know Malcolm was part of the nation, and a significant part of his history and his story. So having someone, I think, with that background on hand doing stuff, giving their input, I don't even think you could just buy that. That's just kismet, right? What was that experience like for you, and what are you enjoying about people, experiencing this story that you worked on?
The What's one thing that's weird is we finished this in May.
Okay.
So
Oh, wow, that's quick.
so yeah, we finished it in May. Well, it's not quick because we were waiting. I've been waiting for people to see
Oh,
this. That's what I meant. We
yes,
finished
yes.
it May of last year,
Okay.
and I
You've been,
mean,
like, anticipating, like, when it's
right.
available?
So some of it was VFX. We had to do some VFX on there, especially on episode 6 because we shot that obviously not in Washington D.C. We shot that in Atlanta, so we had to
Yeah.
make Atlanta look like the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. And so they took some time, and I think we delivered it in September, but they held it for Black History Month. I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah,
So
definitely.
I feel I get it. I get why they did that. So it's actually kind of shocking to me when people are like, "Oh, I saw your episode." I'm like, "Oh, wait, you did what?" So that's been a pleasant surprise. It's very because one, you sign all these NDAs, you can't talk about it, and then all of a
Exactly.
sudden now it's out in the wild and you can talk about it, and it's been fantastic. And I've been really happy that my family has watched it. I've wanted, especially my mom, because my mom was MGT, and
Okay. Yeah,
so
yeah, like, so
she
that's
bared
that's
the
like what Betty Shabazz and the women in the
correct,
okay.
correct. So hearing her feedback has been fantastic. I was like, "Did we get it right? What do you think?" Stuff like that. That's been great. But editing the project for me was really different because everybody has this reverence for Martin Luther King, as you should. I
Yeah.
say you should not, but people usually have mixed or no opinion on Malcolm, and it's different. And
Mhm.
in my household, we grew up with Malcolm being like my dad talked about Malcolm being the hero. So he actually came at it from Malcolm was bigger for him.
Yeah, yeah.
So that I have that reference, and also for Elijah Muhammad, there was
Mhm.
we had the paintings of Elijah Muhammad in our house when we were little.
Yeah.
So they had that reverence as well. So that's a little, it's a little strange, especially cutting footage of a guy doing an imitation of him was gave me some of it gave me chills. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So it was really fulfilling. I felt like this is why I was like, I definitely have to do this project. And I will
Yeah.
tell you this. Um, when you're a black editor in Hollywood, a lot of
Mhm.
times when you get a project, it's because it's a black project and you're a black editor, right?
Right.
And I had done, I think, 2 or 3, because I did Kindred before this, which was
Yes, yes.
amazing
That
with
was on
Octavia Butler.
Hulu.
Right. So
Yeah.
Octavia Butler thing, and I 100% was really into doing that. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop now just doing, black content. I want to do just like content, just TV
Mhm.
shows. I don't want to be the black editor on a black show just doing, I didn't
Yeah.
want to be in a hole, because that's the one thing about Hollywood is they can put you in a box
Mhm.
and say that this is the only thing you can do. And so you have to very quickly diversify. And so that was my intention
Yeah.
before I got Genius. Is I told my agent, I don't want to go for this stuff. I wanna do a different kind of project, something that's just a drama. Just give me something. I don't.
Yeah.
And then this came across my desk, and she was like, "Well, this just came over. I know you said you didn't want to do this kind of thing, but what do you think?" And I was like, "Okay." I was
Yeah,
like,
you yeah.
I have to do this.
You
This
had
is
yeah.
something that I have to go for.
It seems like you've had, of course, hindsight's 2020, but it seems like you had a lot of full circle moments because these one experiences lead into the other. Nothing is in vain. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
that's got to be an amazing feeling when you think back. It's like I can see why I went through X, Y, and Z.
I like that you can see that while you're in it, you can't see
You
it.
can't see,
But yeah,
you
yeah,
be
you cannot
mad.
see
You be
that.
like, yo, this is I ain't feeling this. But it it just seems like it came around really well for you. And I'm so glad that you like stuck to it. And I'm enjoying the work. And I quoted this when we did our review of Genius, and I said, Emmys are coming. Emmys are coming. I'm speaking it into existence. Okay. I just
All
feel
right,
it.
all right, all
I'm
right,
just
all right.
saying you heard it here. Emmys are coming, okay? What would you say, because you're still like doing the work, right? You're still in the thick of
Mhm.
it. What would you say you hope to see in the future? And what is it that are, working on that you can say? What is it that you're working on? What do you hope to do in the future? Where do you see this thing going? This thing
Right
being your
now,
career
I know, right?
thing. No,
I
where do you see your career going? Let me
There you go, there you go. Right now, I'm working on an indie feature.
Mhm.
That it's a $1.5 million feature, which is not that much money, but enough money that it's worth. It. And I would say the script is actually what brought me into this feature.
Mhm.
I've read a lot of scripts,
Yeah.
a lot of scripts, and I read this script and I was like, this is one of the most well written scripts I've ever seen. And it's not necessarily that the plot is the best plot, has twists and turns and things like that. It was just well written.
Mhm.
I don't even know
Yeah.
how to describe that. And then I watched the film that they did before this. The director had actually written it and acted in that one.
Okay.
And it's a movie called Wrestling Jerusalem. And I watched that and I was blown away because, also as a Muslim,
Yeah.
Wrestling Jerusalem is about, it's because the writer's Jewish, and he
Mhm.
basically talks about the situation from every point of view. And it just blew my mind. I was like, I've never seen anything like this. So it was amazing. And then I read his script for this, and this feature is about uh a vet with PTSD. I think that's the best way I want to say it,
Yeah. Okay.
without giving away plot or anything.
Yeah.
And it's moving, it's interesting, and I think it's a story that anybody who's watching it, no matter what, would become invested in these characters. And so this is the first big ish feature that I've done. And so I'm hoping this leads to others. And also, one of the producers is David Aiello.
Okay.
And so I'm excited. I was like, oh, he's going to see some of my work. So that's exciting. Uh,
What would you say your dream project would be?
I am a geek in the with a capital G, and actually, I think you should capitalize all the
Oh, the
letters,
caps
like
lock.
all capitalize geek. So if you can't tell from my bookshelf behind me and all my action figures that I have up there, I am a huge fan of basically comics and fantasy and sci-fi, and that's actually what drew me into television.
Yeah.
I I will name drop Star Trek as my first fandom
Hey,
as a
it
six
don't
year
get no
old.
more fandom than Star Trek.
Yeah, so when I was 6, that was my fandom of choice. It is obviously expanded and stuff now, but
Yeah.
my dream job is to get on a genre show. I mean, Kindred was that,
Yeah.
but there were no spaceships. I would like, you know, some powers, a
Hey,
spaceship.
how about we add some spaceships in here? I know it's a period piece. Add some spaceships in here.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, that's my dream. Is one of my friends is doing working on a really big sci-fi show right now, and it's one
Mhm.
that I've loved since I was a child, and they're doing it for HBO.
Yeah.
And she got it, and I was like, "Do you know anything about this?" And she's like, "No, I have no clue." And I was like, "I hate you so much right now. Like, this is my dream. Like, you know what I mean?" Um, but no, I just am like, oh man, I'm so
Yeah.
excited that they're doing this, and they are doing more genre stuff now,
Mhm.
which I really appreciate. And so yeah, that's the dream, is to get on a genre show. And so I've been this feature will show that I can do, some really good dramatic stuff.
Yes.
I did a short that was a huge action piece. We had squibs and bullies, and it was about some assassins and
Oh,
stuff.
I
I just
love it.
wrapped. I
I
wrapped
love it.
that in November, I think. And so that one was like these two assassins that come in and kill everybody in the room, and then they have to go to Assassins Anonymous. They have they literally go to a circle, and like it's been one day since we killed somebody, and then they have to talk it out.
That's
uh,
genius. I love
it's
it.
it's really funny. It's a cool piece, and I can't wait for them to do all the VFX for all the gunshots and stuff that we did, so
Yes.
that can come out. But I'm trying to get those kind of things under my belt, so that when the show that I want, they're like, "How do we know you can do this?" I'll be
I'm
like,
like,
"Oh, look,
Exhibit A.
exactly." So you got to get that stuff, because people, it's strange. They don't believe you can do it until you've already done it. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, and which is it's that's like, jobs saying they want you to have experience, but it's like, I'm trying to I'm trying
Yeah.
to get this experience,
Exactly,
it's like
exactly.
well,
So that's my journey.
we definitely need you, Libya. We need you. We need people like you. We need people that look like us. We need people with your background, with your expertise, and, I am just so grateful that you took the time to come and share, your story with us so that people who inspire or aspire to do the things that you do can see that it's very much possible as long as they keep connecting those dots and they see, hey, look, there's literally you're going through everything for a reason. I think your story very much is proof of that. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Where would you say the people can find you, keep up with you, support your work? Do you have anything you want to promote, share, anything like that?
Well, other than Genius is the biggest thing that I want to promote right now. So if you haven't watched it, it's on Hulu and Disney Plus and NatGeo. There you go.
Hey.
Um, but I would say I'm on Instagram, so I post new stuff that I'm working on there, and my handle is at Nzinga72. And if you don't know who Nzinga is, she was a queen of Africa, of Angola. So, but I spell it Nzhinga.
Okay, well, I'm gonna put it in the description. We got
There you go. There you go. Because you're like, wait, what?
I'm like,
Yes.
okay.
So I gotta, it all wraps together. It all wraps together. But yeah, just follow me on Instagram. There you go.
Instagram is the way. Okay, perfect. Well, you all know me. I'm TeaRon. You can always follow me on Instagram at TeaRon World, on TikTok at TeaRon with two underscores. And of course, you can follow Ubiquitous Blacks all over social media. You can email us recommendations, comments, concerns, or just share the love in the email, ubiquitousblacks at gmail.com. If you're listening to this as a audio medium, you can leave us 5 stars and also participate in some of the polls and the questionnaires that we have and things like that. If you're on like Spotify or Apple, scroll down. Now, I will say this, and I tell you this all the time. If you are not going to leave 5 stars, just close out. Don't press anything else. We don't we don't need that. 5 stars and good vibes only. Okay. Subscribe on YouTube, leave us a comment, and be sure to follow our guest. Livia, again, I'm so grateful that you took the time to be here with us today. And I look forward to what's next for you. I look forward to connecting the other dots. I'm gonna be like, I see why she did that now. Because she's gotten here now.
I
So
appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
thank you so much for your time. It's been a good one. Peace out, y'all.